So that was me, frustration, that lack of knowledge in the medical field. So the question is, when I think about Lynch syndrome now.
Yeah, when you think about Lynch syndrome or kind of the hereditary cancers from Lynch syndrome, what is either a feeling or memory or a story that if it's the first thing that comes to mind?
Okay, so mine's totally different.
That's okay.
Okay. But to me, it brings, and it doesn't necessarily mean Lynch syndrome, but it brings up a sense of community, because I work with Beauty Counter, which is like a skincare and cosmetics company that's all about educating and advocacy, and a lot of the women that I work with are women that have BRCA or have other, like, cancer stories. And even through Instagram, there's been a sense of community that's developed around whatever the hashtag is that's associated with their cancer, right? Like, I know women across America that have Lynch syndrome because of Instagram, which is really weird because I'm not an Instagram person. I'm more of a Facebook person because Instagram is intimidating. but I think but it stems from what Mom was saying, because I didn't get that sense of, like, comfort and knowledge and support from the medical community. So I went looking for it elsewhere, and I found it in these other people that have similar stories. Even if it's not the same cancer, they have similar stories, and we can unite in learning together and in sharing each other's stories. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous, but when I posted about my skin cancer spot on my toe, in between my toes, probably one of the strangest things I've ever, like, posted, but it just seemed like something that I should share. And I had, like, 5 different people be like, I had something there too. And they weren't random people, they were friends of mine, but it creates a sense of community and an openness and an opportunity to talk about cancer in more of a non-threatening way, and more of a just like, this is life, we should talk about it, we should educate. Beauty Counter is all about educating and advocating, and I think that my role in that company is what kind of started down that path, but it's funny because it's like the other side of the coin of what Mom was saying, because it stems from, I was so irritated at the lack of knowledge from the medical field that I went elsewhere, because I couldn't necessarily get to Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic or whatever, like these places that actually knew about it. So I started connecting with the women who did. Yeah.
And so one of the things, like you said, is kind of the similar tie is kind of the medical community not totally understanding this, and oftentimes maybe not really feeling very supportive of, listening to you and what you're going through. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Because
they were the only ones that had Lynch, right? Like, the doctors that I went to, they're like, oh, I read about this in a journal somewhere. Like, nobody had ever seen a patient. I'm like, well, that's not really encouraging, right? Like,
now, the genetics counselors were great. I mean, and that's part of the medical community. She's like, I've been doing genetic counseling for 20 years, and I've never met a PMS2. I mean, you were really intriguing to them. Then to the regular medical community, you were, it's like Lynch syndrome, what? I don't know what that is. Don't worry about it.
Well, and my genetic counselor was at a children's hospital, and she, I don't know, like, she wasn't not supportive, but she definitely, like, I felt like she did more, you could tell just the way she handled people. She did more in vitro, in utero, neonatal, like, she did more, like, baby genetic issues.
Yeah.
And so, talking to me, she was like, I don't really know what to do with you.
Oh, boy.
And it was really, really evident. So I was like, all right, so you should probably get somebody else in here, because this is weird. So I got the information I needed, but I didn't feel like, like I didn't have the same reaction of, oh, my gosh, you're so cool.
Yeah.
PMS too. Yeah, no, definitely didn't get that.
One of the big kind of goals of this research is trying to help practitioners, doctors, nurses, and different providers better support patients and their families. based on your experiences, what would be, some advice you would give to those people who are treating people like you?
What would my advice be? I guess if you don't know, say that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't discount it. I mean, I did have one doctor say he didn't know, but right there on his handheld, his computer, he looked it up and kind of educated himself in the moment. And I appreciated that,
I had a doctor do that too. I mean, my answer when you first asked is like, be a united front, because I know when we first started, there were two different sets of recommendations.
Oh, that's true.
And it was so frustrating because I'm like, I don't know. I can't possibly know more than the doctors who are researching this. Like, why haven't you guys come together and at least decided on a path forward, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily agree, but you got to come to a conclusion, because it's really unfair to the patient to be like, here's two different protocols. Pick one. Like, what? Like, I can't pick one. That doesn't make any sense. And the doctors I'm seeing have never heard of Lynch syndrome, so why would I expect them to pick one? Anyway, to me, that was the most frustrating.
Yeah, I guess just if you don't know something, say you don't know, research it and get back with the patient, but don't discount the patient, because you don't know.
Yeah.
When I found out my doctor had it, when I first started at my OBGYN, she didn't know she had it, and by the, a year or so into it, she was like, oh, I think her brother has Lynch.
Oh, wow.
But it was one of those, like, okay, so now it's personal for you, and then she suddenly knew everything about it, and that was a huge, to me, it was a gift that I now had somebody that was equally invested.
Yeah, absolutely, because, the doctors also, they have access to medical journals that cost tons of money to, get subscriptions from, that do research in this area too. So they're really the people who have the most access to this as well.
Right.
Thank you guys for sharing that.
Which is why I got really annoyed when they had different protocols.
Yeah.
Just decide, guys.
Yeah.
But the protocol changes every year.
It does.
That's another crazy thing. It's like,
it can't change that often. It creates uncertainty and anxiety in the field because nobody knows what it is, because it's literally changing every year. I realize they're learning more stuff every day, but I don't know. That part felt crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be really difficult when you're trying to make sense of a diagnosis, and then your doctor is giving you a bunch of information that may be conflicts with, and then telling you to make the decision.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Well, thank you guys for sharing that. That's really helpful, especially in terms of, trying to touch on a lot of the practical parts of this research as well.
Sure.
Moving forward, how do you both feel about your family's health history and your own risks of cancer kind of moving forward?
I don't know. I guess I am naively sitting here thinking I'm done. I've had my cancer risk and nothing else is going to happen to me, but that is probably really
that. I'm like, when you have cancer, your likelihood of having cancer again goes up exponentially. Yes.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to go to the doctor ever. Fabulous.
Yeah, that is probably the wrong way for me to be looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, what do I think? I mean, I think it just gave me knowledge, gave me awareness, and I'm really on top of doing it. She really is. I have a lot of trust in my GYN and GI doc. Mm-hmm. I do worry about that, though. So I've said this before, but I feel like it's weird that you only get a cancer doctor when you have cancer.
Uh-huh.
Which sounds strange to say in that way, but I don't know how else to say it, because when I'm trying to prevent cancer, there's no overarching doctor. So when I have Lynch syndrome, I don't have a Lynch doctor. I have a GI doctor that is knowledgeable in Lynch.